This is Derek Ofo with the Medicine Shell, and today I'm going to discuss the Ofo in Igbo Cosmology. I'll explain what the Ofo is and how it is used. Finally, how to perform Igo Ofo, the morning manifestation ritual of our ancestors. This video will cover the center points of our household spirituality, according to our ancestors, the spirits of justice, truth, and order, as well as the laws an individual must live by to align themselves with the path their chi pave for them in the world. And most importantly, about the sacred covenant you made with creation before entering creation. If you're interested in Igbo spirituality and cosmology, hit subscribe. If you want to support this channel, the best way to do so is by becoming a patron. Patreon.com/themedicineshell. Now, before I begin, I have an ilu that I would like to see your interpretation of. As always, there's no wrong or right answers. The magic of an ilu is the opportunity to think about it, and the wisdom in the interpretation that it pulls out of you. The ilu is, agwọ na-eme nke o jiri bụ agwọ, ụmụaka ga-eji ya eke nkwụ. The viper that fails to do what makes it a viper will be used by children to tie firewood. I'm curious to know how you interpret this ilu. So if you have a feeling about what it means or what it's communicating, comment your interpretation below. I'll share what I think it means at the end of the video, so if you're interested, make sure you watch till the end. The clue to my interpretation of this ilu comes in my own last name, Ofo Derenwa, which means the Ofo is within the child, or child with an Ofo within. Earlier, I said the best way to support this channel is through Patreon at patreon.com/themedicineshell. All of my patrons have access to my research library where I get my information from. It has hundreds of ebooks, articles, studies, and first-hand historical sources on Igbo spirituality, culture, and history. We also have an Odinani live study group in the Patreon, which is a live discussion on various topics, or ancestral knowledge applied to the everyday world, or our own interpretations of various things. Lastly, we have an accomplished in-house dibia for individuals who are interested in one-on-one readings, therapy, and consultation. I'll also be doing Oliver de Cook style shout-outs for my Eze-tier patrons and the businesses that they operate and run that help the Medicine Shell exist. So if you're looking forward to seeing me embarrass myself, make sure you watch till the end of the video. Now, if you're not able to become a patron right now, another way you can help the channel is by hitting the like button, which tells YouTube to promote the channel to people who have similar interests to you, and by sharing this video with someone who you believe would be interested in these topics or this particular video. Now, with that being said, let's begin. In our ancestral cosmology, the creator devolves power throughout the universe through the Ofo. This means that everything in the universe has an Ofo of its own. An Ofo is a staff of authority, jurisdiction, but is also foundational to our ancestral cosmology in ways that few definitions do it full justice. Due to the importance of this concept and its complexity within Igbo cosmology, it is nearly impossible to interact with our ancestral cosmology and spirituality without at least understanding or even utilizing the Ofo. This includes the Ofo you can see, which many of you may be familiar with already, and the Ofo that is unseen, which is only understood by an exclusive few, but I'll be explaining later on in this video. The Ofo that most are familiar with on a physical level is the staff of authority, passed down from generation to generation to symbolize a covenant between a people, their ancestors, their god, and their land. This covenant is given physical form by use of the Ofo tree in most examples, but there are exceptions that I'll name. Once bound by this covenant to God, their land, and their ancestors, the Ofo becomes a concentration of intention, and from there gains its power. At this point, it becomes an intersection for the living and non-living, creator and creation, all tied together by an oath of truth. The Ofo is said to be the truth by which worlds are united, and by owning or holding one, you have put yourself at a standard of worthiness to be a messenger between these worlds and the uniting force of these worlds in your own family, community, or household. It is said that of all the words that reach the ears of Chineke, the Ofo carries those that are true. And because it is the trusted universal connector, the Ofo thus becomes a staff for controlling the energies of a given environment or situation, and a source of protection from the unseen for those who own it and live up to its standard. And towards the end of the video, you should understand what this means and how it guides the practice of our ancestral spirituality. The Ofo comes in two forms: a stationary form, which is often artistically elaborate, individual to the person or family that holds it, and kept away from the eyes of the public, often only being seen by members of the family and titled individuals. This form is often kept in a bag, along with nzu and an iron ring. Now, when I do my video on Afa, you will understand a little bit more about this iron ring and what its importance is. So if you're interested in the video on Afa, comment below. The stationary Ofo, which is kept in the obi, or the home or exclusive room of the family leader, is coupled by the mobile Ofo, and this is the Ofo that is carried outside or carried in public. Most often, both Ofo are made from wood from sacred trees, or a class of sacred trees that are often called Ofo, but can also be made of iron, bronze, and even substitute branches from non-sacred trees if the sacred ones are not available. But even when an Ofo is made from a non-sacred branch, how it is put together is the distinguishing factor that makes it an Ofo. For example, the branch must be allowed to shed by itself, rather than be pulled from a tree. After shedding, it must be allowed to dry naturally from the sun and in its own time. And the wood used to make an Ofo cannot be used in any other menial task, with the exception of medicine. It cannot be used as firewood, and cannot be picked up by women, if it is to be fashioned into an Ofo. In many communities, it can only be picked up by elder men, or a man who has had children, built a home, and earned a title. The essential form of the Ofo is that of symbolic language, and understanding the language of symbols makes the form of the Ofo telling of its power and place in Igbo cosmology. The Ofo is fashioned from a bundle of branches bound together by a rope in many cases, though very often it is a single staff, but still features symbols that represent these bindings. The Ofo is fashioned as a woman, often a pregnant woman, as is seen in the swollen belly of some Ofo. And there's often use of the spiral or wave patterns in its design. It may also feature various animals, symbols specific to the people its holder belonged to. The Ofo represents Ne-Chukwu, or Eke, creation itself. Its ropes or bindings allude to Nete, one of the many names for Ne-Chukwu, who is the universe itself. Nete is a reference to Ne-Chukwu, with specific emphasis on the fact that she expresses herself on a cosmological level as a web of unseen strings, which hold Alam Madu, the world of people, and Alam Mua together. These strings, or ete, are the binding principle of universal order. In Igbo mythology, it is said that the universe is covered by a web, which is woven by Udide, the cosmic spider. This cloth is referred to as Akwete, the cloth of ete, with ete being the string, or in the case of this allegory, the ropes, which hold it all together. It is also said that when individuals perform a kili, or astral projection, there is a rope, similar to an umbilical cord, which holds them and their astral self together as one. And in teaching of this aspect of Igbo cosmology, this rope is often compared to the harness of a palm wine tapper, and is the key to mastering the art of ekili. Now, for those who understand Odinachin Nebere, the tragedy of the merciful mother, or the story of the creation of the universe according to our ancestors, Ne-Chukwu, upon her death in a great explosion which gave birth to the universe, resurrected as Anna, the earth, and therefore the Ofo is a manifestation of earth, or Anna. This also means that the earth itself is Ofo, the original Ofo, the supreme Ofo, and the Ofo that holds humanity in alignment with Chukwu. Aja, or soil, or sand itself, is also a form of Ofo. And once we go further in this video and you understand how the Ofo is used and what power it possesses, the place that soil or sand holds in the practice of our ancestral spirituality will make itself more clear. The presence of the Ofo represents the presence of the covenant a people have made with their ancestors, which itself is a continuation of a covenant the ancestors have made with the earth, or creation. It also represents the melding of earth and the unliving, as the ancestors who are no longer with us have returned to dust and are now one with the earth. Among many, it is said that Ndiche, or the ancestors, live in Imala, or within the earth, as it is earth that human beings are created from, and earth they return to upon death. It is important to remember that all things considered Ofo are holders of law. So once Ofo is received, there are a set of laws that correlate or connect to that Ofo that allow it to do what it is supposed to do in the world. And I will elaborate on this shortly as we discuss the concept of Ogun. But understanding the relationship between law and Ofo, and the relationship between Ofo and Anna, sheds light onto why our ancestors drew their first law from the land, and thus formed Iwala, the laws of the land, or the sacred commandments by which a people live by in order to not only survive, but thrive in a community or new settlement. The Alpha also serves as a vessel of concentrated intention, the scepter that one's ancestor laid before themselves, before a morning ritual by which they would manifest their wants, desires, and wishes into the world, as well as the mace they would strike on the ground to make it law. It is the instrument used to seek and uphold justice, and what they held when they spoke truth and walked in balance with the universe. For this reason, the Alpha is a vessel of what is godly within a lineage of people, and thus within a family as well as a community, becomes the most sacred or most respected item in the spiritual, judicial, and cultural collection of artifacts and heirlooms. Within a family, the individual who holds the Alpha serves as a judge for the family, performing ibe or arbitration for disputes, as this person is the one who speaks for their ancestors and on behalf of the whole of the living family. Within a family, this individual goes by many names, but one common is the Ige Ofo of the family. Because he holds the Ofo, the Ige Ofo cannot lie while holding it, and has taken an oath to die if they violate the principles that the Ofo represents. For this reason, life becomes a day-to-day affair for this individual. And every morning, the individual will declare their worthiness of holding the Ofo through a ceremony known as Igo Ofo, which I'll elaborate towards the end of the video. This individual will also use this ceremony to manifest protection and blessings for the family. As the holder of the Ofo, the Ige Ofo of the family is the link between the living and unliving members of a single family unit. And this concept is given added context when it is understood that the non-living members of a family are equal members of the family to those who are living. And in Odinani, ancestral work is built on a foundation of inclusiveness, or including them in the process of the family's day-to-day affairs. The Ige Ofo is tasked with keeping the family whole. For if this person desecrates the Ofo, it can not only lead to the destruction or end of their own life, but the obliteration of the family itself, either through the gradual disunity of its members, or a chain of unfortunate events that will lead to the condemnation of the family name. This makes the Ige Ofo the spiritual leader of the family, the individual tasked to assure that the family is united, healthy, and just, and kept of spiritual impurities, as well as the protector of the collective energy and spiritual health of the family as a whole. In taking on the duty of their position, the Ige Ofo is a person who has dedicated themselves to the principles of justice and family above self, as oftentimes this is the member of the family who is punished for particular crimes committed by other members of that family, and the person held responsible for the conduct of the family in the outside world, as well as the compliance and coordination of the family with the greater good of the community. One example of this that I was able to encounter in my research a while back was that of a trial. I believe it was a trial of theft in the colonial era. And part of that trial included a swearing on to the Ofo by both guilty parties. But what I found particularly interesting was that the Ofo holder of the family was the one who served as a lawyer, or who spoke for the guilty person or the accused person in their family. And in the end, the punishment would not be on that person or the person that committed the act, but rather the Ige Ofo of the family, or the Opara, as it is known in most of Igbo land. There was also an account I was able to encounter a very long time ago, which was a trial by ring. And now I spoke earlier of a ring that is in the Ofo bag. Now, oftentimes you'll have a situation where there's a trial, and if there's a difficulty getting a confession, or somebody withholding information, or a situation where there's a block in the trial, they will actually take a ring and put it in a boiling iron cauldron. Now, what was really interesting about the accounts that I was able to encounter there was that the person who would then pull the ring out of the boiling pot would not be the accused or the accuser, but rather the Ige Ofo, or the Ofo holders of both of their families. Now, based on the medicine applied to the ceremony, the person who was guilty is the only person whose family member would be burnt by the fire or by the heat. And the person who was innocent would be protected from the heat and could reach into the pot and pull out the ring and remain unscathed. Now, in the accounts that I read, because the guilty person was not only worried about their own life, but that of the Ige Ofo, the accused quickly confessed once the proposal was brought up as far as the crime would go. And I also thought it was particularly interesting because since the Ige Ofo was going to be the one speaking for their clients, the level of confidence you have when reaching into a boiling pot to pull something out is going to determine how much it's going to hurt you. So the person who's most confident about the innocence of their client or their family member is going to be the one who's going to come out safe. And the one who's not 100% sure because maybe they know something about the character of that family member is going to be the one that's going to hesitate and stumble and ultimately burn themselves in the process. So found that very interesting. Anyways, back to the video. Because the Okpara or Igbo Ofo has put community or family before themselves, it is said that one who holds the Ofo has become a complete man. And in the ancestral society, the acquisition of an Ofo is the beginning of true manhood. It is also important to know that throughout life, a young man is going to be awarded Ofo based on what age grade they're in. So there are Ofo for younger people, but that which represents a family is considered the most exalted or the highest form of Ofo, and that's the one we're going to be discussing today. It is also important to note that the Okpara or the Igbo Ofo of a family is not only the eldest man, but the eldest deserving man, meaning that this person has gone through their life without committing any violations of Iwala. Iwala is a covenant that the people make with the land that they live on, which gives them the right and authority to live on that land for multiple generations so long as they keep it sacred and free from desecration, or aru. As I said earlier, the earth itself is an Ofo, and it is from the covenant originally made with the land that all Ofo within the community are derived from, in a process that I'll explain shortly. And therefore, an individual who has violated the highest form of Ofo, which is Iwala, is not worthy of holding that for their family, household, or community, and can invite the punishment reserved for them specifically onto the whole of the family or the household that they are holding the Ofo of, as it has become a part of their person upon taking the oath to that Ofo. The Ofo is a manifestation of Ne-Chukwu, or her reincarnate self, which is Ana, the earth. As each person has a chi, which is the divine spark that brought them into existence. Each person thus has an eke, as they are now a parcel of creation, making Chineke both the mother and father of creation, or the two-figure God family that all things come from, but also the formula for creation itself. In understanding that Chineke is a formula, an individual could then see that things associated with eke or Ne-Chukwu in the Chineke sequence manifest on multiple levels of reality, but retain the same essential nature in the larger cosmological order. Because in the ancestral worldview, reality is a repetition of the nature of that single source, which is Chineke. And therefore, if you see Eke on one level, which is the earth, you will see Eke on another, which is Ofo. And what is true about the Ofo applies to the earth. And what is true about the earth applies again to the Ofo. So as a piece or parcel of the universe, each of us is Eke or creation. And like the universal mother, the earth, we are born with an Ofo that is unseen, but itself is the binding covenant between our existence, the universe, and our destiny. In order to fully understand this, you must understand the Igbo worldview on reincarnation. In the ancestral worldview, an individual is a binding of four essences: Chi, Eke, Agun, or sometimes called Onyowa, and Chiwa, and finally Mo. I have explained these four essences in the video How to Make a Human Soul, which I'll link below. But for the sake of explaining how each and every one of us is born with an Ofo, I will focus on the Eke and Onyowa elements of the four essences. Onyowa, or Agun, is the part of you that reincarnates. It is also the part of you that comes into the world with your purpose for existing. This purpose is linked to the covenant you made, or your Onyowa made, with Eke in the reincarnation process. When an individual dies, these four essences go their separate ways. But your Onyowa begins the process of reincarnation all over again. It first goes to Chukwu, who gives it its purpose based on Chukwu's predetermined idea or design for the course of existence as a whole. With this purpose, Onyowa gains a chi, and this chi brings it into the universe, or Eke, which is reality and existence. But the Onyowa and the chi must enter Alamado, or the world of the living, through Ana, the earth, who is the reincarnation of Eke, the universe, after she died in the explosion that created existence. Once your Onyowa and your Chi reach this point, Ana will determine whether you are worthy of reincarnation and whether the purpose you were given sustains the sacredness or takes from it. The worthiness of reincarnation is based on whether or not your family welcomes you back into the world, or those who are living welcome you back into the world, but most specifically your family and community. And then finally, whether or not you have committed any abominations against the earth and against Ana while you are alive in your previous life that you have not cleansed or atoned for. Once you are given permission to reincarnate, your Onyuwa, your Chi, and your Eke take an oath which binds them as one. This oath is a promise to the earth not to desecrate her or break the Iwala, laws of the land, of the people and the land that you will reincarnate into. This oath will also give you special power over various aspects of life that are linked to your purpose, which I'll explain shortly. And then ultimately, this oath is a promise to be and do who and what your chi brought you into the world to be and do, as ultimately this was the promise you made to creation before coming into creation. Once Ana chooses a woman, you will come into the earth through. As woman and Ana are one. You are born again, and from there you are born with an Ofo or an Ofo Mo, which itself is an oath that binds you to your purpose, your chi, your community and family, and then ultimately universal order itself. And therefore, once you are born, your purpose in creation is your promise to creation. And when you are living in, doing, or nearing that purpose, a divine level of power, ability, or bliss, and awakening is activated within you. You will have a divine right over that specific purpose and everything necessary to make it happen, which makes it impossible for people, events, and things beyond you to stop you or dim your lights or take it from you in a manner or time that was not divinely ordained. This authority is known as Ogun. Now, before I try to explain Ogun, I want to make it clear that of all of the terms I've tried to translate, this one has by far been the most difficult, primarily because it's very much a term that pertains to law, but the legal system of the English-speaking world has this concept to an extent, but no specific word for it, or at least one that my Googling skills, own vocabulary, and lawyer friend could dig up and properly say it translates to Ogun. So I'm going to try to translate this with an explanation, but it's not going to be easy, so wish me luck. All right, so Ogun is the power or authority given to an individual based on the terms of an agreement, and most especially the power or authority given to an individual if that agreement is broken, as well as the rights and privileges given to an individual if the agreement is followed. So for example, if you sign a lease that says you're going to pay your rent monthly and fail to pay for 3 to 4 months straight, your apartment complex now has the Ogun to throw you out. Now, had you kept to the oath and made the payments the apartment complex and you had agreed to in the contract or lease, which in this case is the Ofo, they wouldn't have the Ogun or power to throw you out because you have kept to the oath. Now, what makes this particularly difficult to translate is that Ogun has a positive and a negative meaning that are inseparable. So what I described to you now is a right to retribution, to an extent, or a legally recognized right to exact justice for the violation of an agreement. Now, this is the negative understanding of Ogun, and by negative, I don't mean bad. I mean negative as in Ogun as applied to a wrongful act or a violation of an agreement. Now, the positive aspect of Ogun is the rights or conditions and power that are given to you as an individual to exact the same agreement. So for an example, if you agree to pay for lights in an apartment, you now have the Ogun or legal expectation to have the lights come on when you flip the switch. On a cosmic level, if Chukwu brings you into the world to be a great warrior, the Ogun that comes with that agreement or obligation might be strength, agility, courage, and all the things necessary to exact that agreement. If there's a law that everyone in a country must wear seatbelts when they drive, Ogun is a law that also assures that all cars sold in that country have to have seatbelts. Now, I can do a video on Ogun itself because outside of this definition, there's also a nature that it has that reflects some aspects of karma. But for the sake of this video, we're going to focus on Ogun as it applies to the Ofo. Now, I hope that made sense, and I also hope that you can see why it's hard to find a single word or sentence that sums up what Ogun is in English. Those of you who know a term that might do a better job at describing what I'm aiming to describe, go ahead and comment below and let me know. So, as an individual is born with a purpose, this purpose comes with a set of principles an individual would need to live by or live up to in order for that purpose to manifest. Within this Ofo Mo, or the Ofo that you are born with, the agreement an individual makes with Chineke, or Chieneke, creator and creation, for coming into the world, will ultimately define the fate of that individual within that world and their nature while living that faith, even if they are not aware of it. Now, once these agreements are made and all of these parts are bound together by Ete, the Ofo is created. as well as the individual or piece of creation it represents. And with this comes Ogun in both its positive, affirming regard and in its negative, retributive regard. In its affirming regard, when you are living your purpose, you have a cosmic right to be within that purpose, and you are protected by universal law from anything trying to take that position or existence from you. This principle of Ogun and its relationship with Ofo is the foundation of ancestral law and our philosophy on justice, which is referred to as Ofon Ogun. If you're interested in a video on the legal system that this developed, comment below and let me know. Now, because of the principle of Ofon Ogun, the Igbo cosmological world functions on a basis of justice. The Ofo is therefore an instrument or a symbol of protection, both in the physical and spiritual spaces, as is exemplified by the saying, Mo aganebu madone medi nyojo, or the spirits do not kill the innocent. And therefore, in Odinani, righteous behavior alone provides an individual with protection in both Alam Mado, the world of people, and Alam Mo, the world of spirits, at once, as the Ogun associated with the Ofo Mo that brought you into creation grants you protection by creation and by the Creator, so long as you're living within promise of the oath. Because Ogun exists on both ends, as far as Mado and Mo, debts of justice that are not paid in life are paid in death, or an individual who is not punished in person for a crime will be punished in spirit, either in life or after. And this makes the Ofo and what it stands for, namely truth and justice, the ultimate protector of an individual, and an individual's ability to keep their Ofo sacred and live up to its standard, a form of cosmic shielding or protection through life and thereafter. Ofon Ogun therefore upholds justice at a level beyond human capacity. For example, if individuals attend a trial and a miscarriage of justice occurs, such as the wrong person being punished, or a guilty person escaping by way of lies or omitted truths, Ikun Ofo, or the wind of the Ofo, is a term used to describe the unseen hand of the Ofo that will ultimately exact that justice, which human beings failed to achieve themselves. Ikun Ofo, or the wind of the Ofo, is another term for Ogun, which exacts justice on behalf of an Ofo that is violated or broken. Ikun Ofo also brings truth to the light and gives every lie or falsehood a limited lifespan. This reinforces the principle that says all truths come to light, and the lived reality that falsehoods or lies eventually fade from existence, or at least lose the position that they were created to hold. And the relationship between Ofon Ogun is described in the Ilu, Ofo Ju Ogun Ere, or the Ofo trades in Ogun. Ikun Ofo is a self-serving spirit, which itself is the unseen hand of justice, which in time restores a disrupted balance. So with all things in creation carrying an Ofo, and that Ofo giving them a place in the tapestry of the universe, Ogun ensures that things stay within that place, and when disrupted or taken from that place, a balance is restored, whether the disruption happens on a person-to-person scale or a universal scientific scale. The ultimate law of the universe is balance. And this is among many reasons why an individual who wishes to say that they are speaking an absolute truth with a pure character and a pure conscience, an absolute authority in what they are saying, or a divine right to say what they are saying, they'll say, Ejim Ofon Ogun Ekuya, or I say this with Ofon Ogun, though I would advise people not to say this unless they really mean it. Now, understanding this relationship between Ofon Ogun and how they come into the universe as one is important to remember for the rest of the video, as it'll explain why the Ofo is used the way it is used and regarded in the way it is regarded. The Ofo that most are familiar with is the Ofo of the family, that which is kept and held by the keeper and holder of justice, authority, and order in the family, which on a household level is the father, and on the level of an extended family is the oldest man in the family, or in some families, the first son of the family's founding patriarch. But on an individual level, once a man decides to build a home by first building the physical home and then marrying a woman to bring into the home to bear children, this home or family is also a unit of creation, and thus also has its own Ofo. Worthiness to hold this Ofo by upholding its principles allows the Ogun of the Ofo to then protect the family, keep the family together, and instill prosperity, order, and fruitfulness within the family and its endeavors. There are several ways a family, community, or person uses the concept of Ofo in the exercise of their legal, familial, and spiritual practices, and each of these methods have enough detail within them for a video of their own. But the application of the Ofo I'm going to focus on for the rest of the video are Igo Ofo, the morning communion with the Ofo, and how the Ofo is applied in law and government, be it the household or the greater community. In order to assert their worthiness of keeping the Ofo and updating the Ofo of the nature of their own character and adherence to their principles, Igo Ofo is the morning communion an individual does with their Ofo. Igo Ofo is typically performed when the Ofo holder wakes up, before the affairs of the day are attended to, and itself serves as a confirmation of the purity of the individual and the worthiness of that individual to hold the Ofo, as well as the activation or affirmation of the Ogun that protects them in their endeavors and their family as a whole. I'll explain how to do Igo Ofo in 5 steps. But before I do so, it is important for me to give details on how the Ofo is kept within a household, as it is important to understanding how it is used. The Ofo of a household comes in 2 forms. A stationary form, which is often artistically elaborate and kept away from the eyes of the public, or kept in safekeeping in either its own room or a house specially designed for it, towards the back of the house. This form is often only viewed by members of the family and is kept in a bag with nzu and an iron ring. The stationary Ofo is then coupled with a mobile Ofo, and this is the Ofo that is most often carried in public and used in ritual, ceremony, prayer, court, and government. And while the Ofo is typically made from the wood of sacred trees, such as the ogrishi or some Ofo, but most often trees from the Ofo family, which are the Deuterium senegalens in Latin, as well as the Deuterium elastica and the Deuterium microcarpum. On a side note, these trees are highly medicinal, as are most trees that are used in any form of spiritual application. Now, among the many things that the Ofo tree is used to treat, 2 of the more common are arthritis and bone fractures, which is particularly interesting because there is a fable in Igbo mythology where human beings are constructed piece by piece, and that tree, the Ofo, was used in making the bones. So to me, this highlights that oftentimes when you hear the use of certain plants or trees in mythology, or even minerals, such as certain stones, it usually hints or goes back to its medicinal application. Now, in order to use any of these branches as a proper Ofo, a few rules are applied. For one, the Ofo cannot be pulled from the tree that it comes from. It must naturally fall to the earth by itself and dry out in its own time. Afterwards, this branch cannot be picked up or collected by a woman, cannot be used as firewood or in any menial application. And in some communities, only an Ofo picked up from the ground by an elder man can be used as an Ofo. The Ofo tree cannot be climbed or cut down. And if you take a branch from its base, it is only right to give the tree an offering or sacrifice as a mark of honor and gratitude. Once the Ofo has been consecrated in the household, one of its most common uses is an Igo Ofo, the morning manifestation ritual, done by the individual in the household who holds the Ofo for the whole of the household. And by following these 5 steps, you too can perform Igo Ofo in your own home to manifest protection and success in your endeavors. The first step is to cleanse. Before arriving at the home or the room dedicated to the Ofo, the individual will wash their hands, their face, their mouth, and their feet. Some will take it a step further by sprinkling nzu on their feet and dusting their palms with nzu as well, as nzu is a manifestation of Nimiri and itself represents purity and cleansing. So in the language of symbols used by our ancestors, this added step communicates purity. Igo Ofo is also performed barefoot, so that there's no separation between the earth and the feet of the individual. But the application of nzu is purely symbolic, and the general point or main purpose of this particular situation is to approach the Ofo clean, in the literal sense. The second step is to bring an offering. An individual will take a seat, or a stool most specifically, and sit down next to the Ofo. But along with that seat, they will often bring a sacrifice, or something as simple as a plate of oji, or morning cola, as well as libations. Offerings can also include a plate of whatever you're getting ready to eat in the beginning of the day. Now, whatever you bring, the first step in eating it is to chew it and then spit it out. Some individuals will spit it out in 4 directions. And this symbolically represents spitting out or casting away any misfortune or bad things that are in wait for your family for the rest of the day. Do not allow bad things. Or I cast away bad things. The spitting in the 4 directions, north, east, south, and west, will also correlate with Eke, Urye, Afo, and Nkwo, which not only means you're casting away things that are coming from those directions, but you're also casting away bad things on all 4 of the market days, Eke, Urye, Afo, and Nkwo. The third step is to do your greetings. I have a video called How Our Ancestors Pray, which breaks down how to do these greetings or introductions before a prayer or before manifestation, and even before breaking a kola and welcoming guests into your home. So if you're interested in that, the link is below. But in short, these greetings are often declarations or acknowledgments of all of the forces present. So if you're bringing Oji or Kola, as is customary, you may want to acknowledge the spirits of Chukwu, Ana, your ancestors, the spirits either present or in the community, and the 4 market days, Eke, Urye, Afo, and Nkwo. So for example, this is done by saying, Okike no n'eluigwe, Oji abiala, Ana nne mmadụ na nne mmụọ, Oji abịala, ndị iche na ndị mmụọ, ndị mbụ na ndị egede, Oji abịala, ekelere m unu, ekelere m ndị eke, ndị orie, ndị afọ, and ndị nkwọ. With the 4 market days, including anything that you may have forgotten, as all things in creation have one of the market days as one of their names, and thus when that name is called, you are calling the name of what is tied to it. So by including all 4, you are mentioning the forces or the ancestors that you may not know by name. An individual who knows their ancestors by name can also greet them specifically. For myself, I would say, Nne Ejike, ekelere m gị, Nne Emenoha, ekelere m gị, Nna Ukwebu, ekelere m gị, Nna Ọfọdụrụnwa, ana m ekele gị, Nna Akaweze, ekelere m gị, Oji abịala. In all forms of ancestral prayer and manifestation, it's very important to know your ancestors by name and understand their story, personalities, and general conduct. For those who do not know their ancestors by name, using Eke, Urye, Afo, and Nkwo will cover all of them. Another important detail to remember is that unlike the ancestral altar, the Ofo specifically speaks Igbo. So a proper greeting or particular ceremony is best performed using the Igbo language. Whereas with an ancestral altar, this is different because you will use the language that your ancestors understand. After your greetings are done, 4th step is to do declarations. The declarations are a list of things that you will declare that prove you have not desecrated the Ofo or violated its principles. When your greetings are done, the Ofo holder then affirms their worthiness to hold the Ofo by listing a set of virtues that they have not violated. Now, most often these are, I have not taken what does not belong to me, I have not wished ill on another, I have not harmed another, I have not told a lie, I have not coveted the wives of others, I have not spoken evil, I have not caused bloodshed, I have not associated with those committing evil, I have not brought abominations to the land. Now, I've developed a full list in the Igbo and English language in the Ofo folder for my patrons. So if you are a patron at patreon.com/themedicineshell, go to the Ofo folder and there will be a full list of declarations for Igo Ofo in both English and Igbo. Now, these declarations can be as extensive as the individual holder believes they should be, or even more brief than the example I gave. It is important to remember that the steps I am giving are general steps or general guides, and much of what will be done in between will be customized to the situation and the individual. Each Ofo will have its own specific principles, with the ones I listed being general or universal for the most part. And as you grow to understand yourself and understand your Ofo, you will know which principles to declare your alignment with. Now, oftentimes, if you are given an Ofo or you receive an Ofo and you commit a wrong or you commit something that your conscience speaks against, and then there are consequences outside of your control, such as misfortune, bad things happening to the family, so forth. This can often be a clue as to what the principle of that particular Ofo is. So, for example, if you open a business, everything you do or everything you bring into creation comes with its own Ofo. Now, there will be certain practices that you may commit that will immediately lead to misfortune for you. Very often, your chi will tell you that this thing is wrong before you do it. Now, once you have encountered that punishment or the ogun of that Ofo, you can then add the negation of that action into your list of principles, such as I have not overcharged people, which is something that dibias often use in their practice, or I have not used my business or authority to harm others. I, for example, was under some financial pressure to take on another endeavor outside of this channel. So when I went to go do that thing, I immediately got coronavirus. So I've added, I will not veer from the path my chi prepared, or I have not veered from the path my chi prepared in my own declarations. Now, as an added step, immediately after doing your declaration, individuals will then do negations, or manifest a back-to-sender energy, by saying things such as, let those who are planning for my death fall in their grave, let those who are hoping for my failure fall first, let those who are speaking against me bite their tongue, and so forth, followed by a set of positive affirmations. This household will grow, this household will prosper, this household will be protected, this household will flourish. What our hearts desire will come to life, what our hands touch will prosper and multiply. And then making these affirmations law by saying, and the final step is striking the Ofo on the ground and saying the words Ofo. Now, it is important to remember that there is a stationary and a mobile Ofo, and it is the handheld mobile Ofo that you will be striking towards the ground, though you can also use the stationary one for particularly serious events. Use of the word Ofo also correlates with the word Ise and serves as a means of sending what has been said into the universe. From there, the day begins. The family goes about its business, knowing that they are protected by the Ofo of their lineage and the Ogumma created by just and truthful behavior. After the Ofo of the household is the Ofo Ibenne, the lineage Ofo. While each household has its own Ofo, as well as each profession having its own Ofo that is awarded after the ending of a training or initiation period, the Ofo Ibenne is the Ofo held by the extended family's leader. And like all Ofo, the Ofo Ibenne is used to hold court, or for settling issues between family members within the extended family, as it is linked to the founders of the family, or the first patriarch who the family owes its lineage to. The way the Ofobodo is linked to the founder of a community, or an entire town, or clan. And therefore, when there are disputes between members of a household, the Ofo within the household is used if it's a particularly serious case. If there are disputes between members of the extended family, the Ofo Ibenne is used to hold trial within the family. And if there are disputes or issues that affect the entire community, the Ofobodo, or the Ofo of the town, can be summoned and used in performing arbitration for members of that community. This creates a multi-tiered system of jurisdiction, with higher Ofo serving as courts of appeal if both parties are unsatisfied with the ruling of the Ipe or arbitration at the level they first met it. Outside of resolving disputes, the Ofo is also used in major milestones in an individual's life. For example, if an individual wants to become an Eze-tier or a dibia, they must let the Ofo holder of their maternal family know their intention and afford it the respect it deserves, as Agun, the spirit associated with dibia and Eze-tier, is said to spread from the maternal line. When a woman is getting married, her father must return to his Ofo and pray on her behalf, saying something along the lines of, see my daughter as she is, make sure she remains this way, make sure she is protected in her new home, or see our daughter as she's going, let her remain this way. And as I mentioned earlier, outside of the Ofo associated with the lineage, there are also Ofo that are earned throughout life. When an individual earns a title, they are afforded an Ofo Echichi, which is a vessel containing the principles of the title, as well as giving them the authorities that come with the title, necessary to enact the title's duties. Often, the mobile version of the Ofo Echichi is represented with an Oduatsun, or a horse tail whip, an Okike, or an elephant tusk, and sometimes an Otonsi, or ritual staff, and sometimes a fan with their title on it. The Ofo itself is important because, as you see throughout this video, the Ofo is not only what holds an individual together, but also what is used to hold a household, a community, and a country as one. It is what also links these various levels of human organization and human existence to their ancestors, their creator, and the land that they're on. And therefore, the Ofo, both in abstract and in reality, is a binding of many elements, which brings a new thing into reality. And because the principles of Chineke are balance, truth, and justice, the Ofo is known by the Igbo people as the spirits of truth and justice. And that's it. Earlier in this video, I asked for your interpretations of the ilu, agwọ na-emeri nke o jiri bụ agwọ, ụmụaka ga-echiri ya na-eke nkwụ, or the viper that fails to show what makes it a viper will be used to tie firewood by children. Now, I'm going to give my interpretation of this proverb because I believe it brings the understanding of the Ofo and how it is applied and what it means full circle, with the primary clue to my opinion on it or my view on it being my own last name, Ofo dere moi, or the Ofo is within the child, or a child with an Ofo within. But before I do that, I had promised my Eze-tier patrons that I'm going to do Oliver de Coke style shoutouts. So it's only proper we pay respects to Ndenwo Burenwe for making this channel possible. Patreon.com/The Medicine Shell. Abigail Vasquez, founder, AV Readings, Adalolo, Adaku Utah, Adelakin, Abombioka, Abadu Ozo, Akachi Lam, Alejandro Diaz, Amechi Ekufu, Amaka Adol, Amanda Johnson, Aya Eneli, Busy Life, Celeste Richmond, Chief, Dr. Sessa Salon, Aswoka Gebi 1 of Hindi Haiti in America, Shante Thompson, Chika, Engineer, Chike, Poet Extraordinaire, Chimoge Ibe, Chino M, Chris Abani, Chukwuemeka Bartholomew, Chukwumanze, Cozy, Crystal, Cynthia Ojiewe, Ekundayo, Founder, Roots Distribution, Africa Limited, Ememe, Emeka Oha, Grace, I Am Chizara, Engineer, Udochi Okeke, Founder, Ikenga Nation, and Olaobi, Chief Doctor, Isioma Orihu, Adagio Ogu1, Labo, Jennifer Harris, Jess Akun, Jules, Lee, Lioness Jade, Liz, Mary Ayodele, Mbeke II, Michael Curran, Director, Mikael Chukwuma Ouna, Founder, Mikael Ouna Studios, Mystique, Netter Arts, where wisdom is found, Ngozi Onoha, Nia, Nick Crenshaw, Nina Nwafia, Namdi Azuku, Chief Engineer, Wamazi Anyiwo, Founder, Igbo Cyber Shrine, Odinaka Nze Akebuchionwa, one of Igboland, comedian and astrologer extraordinaire, Okechukwu Ebiez, Olisemeka Okapu of the Coop Co-op, Sansa DG Ainwene na USA, Rachel Nwokoro, Raslin Ahirin, Ross Jones, Sack Alexander, Sarah Nwafo, Shanae, Sharika Regina, Founder, Get Wrapped Up at RiriRap.com, Stan, Stephen Chin, Team Carib, The Homegirl Healer, Founder, TheHomegirlHealer.com, and the Cosmic Drag Podcast, Akana Rogun 1 of America, Uche Abez, Uche, UE, Uchenna Campos, Psychic Services, Founder, Psychic Medium Uchenna, Rena Kara, Founder, Omarama, Om Massage, and Whitney Brianna Thomas. Alright, so I chose the ilu, agwọ na-emeri ihe o jiri bụ agwọ, ụmụaka ga-echiri ya na-eke nkwụ, because it communicates something very important in understanding the Ofo and the ancestral approach to spirituality as a whole. And to me, it means that things are defined by their function rather than their title. So, for example, a leader is a form or a title. But if you're not leading, you're no longer a leader. even if you're carrying that title or if you're the one on the throne. And soon enough, the umaka or the proverbial umaka will then treat you or will act based on the fact that you no longer fulfill that function, even if you still have that title, as is the case with the viper and the firewood. And Ofo, when it comes to the household, is supposed to keep a family together, it's supposed to protect and uphold truth and justice. But if you don't see these functions happening or existing within a household, the staff or the stick used to make an Ofo is as good as firewood. Oftentimes we can make the mistake of thinking that forms or symbols are more important than their function or purpose or the Ofo of their existence. So while I describe the Ofo as having these qualities, if that staff doesn't have that quality to you, it's no longer an Ofo. When you go to court in the US, you swear on whatever is an Ofo to you. It can be a Bible, and if you say it's a Bible, they'll bring a Bible for you to swear on. If you say it's a Quran, they'll bring a Quran for you to swear on. And you can request just about anything, with the intent being that this thing is Ofo to you, that upon swearing on it, you're not going to lie. And I say that to say that this proverb articulates that idea. Odinani is more about understanding belief than belief itself. And understanding belief is important in building a healthy and functional person, a healthy, functional relationship, family, or even country, which is why you see the Ofo existing at all those levels. So the Ofo given to a viper gives it certain attributes, or ogun. When those attributes fail to show or fail to function, it's no longer a viper and is no longer afforded the respect the viper deserves as a viper, which is almost always fear. That is an aspect of life more than it's a matter of opinion or perspective, which is why all over the world you see people using various things for Ofo. And while those things may differ from one culture to another, the general function of that relationship is the same. So while I personally resonate with the ancestral representation of the concept and the philosophy of the Ofo as it is incorporated in my own culture, it is important to know that it is more about the function of the Ofo than the form. And so this video is very much about understanding whatever it is you believe is Ofo and the relationship that thing has with you, your community, and the things that it binds together. Now, giving that concept of Ofo a physical representation and using it to hold yourself accountable to its virtues or your virtues is also powerful and very effective in creating a focused and balanced life, as well as protecting yourself on a level beyond what is immediately visible. So yeah, a viper is a viper when it keeps its Ofo, the way I am me, so long as I keep my Ofo. When we see a viper that's not keeping its Ofo, regardless of its flesh and bone representation, it's no longer what it was supposed to be in the world. Let me know what you think. As always, this is Derek with the Medicine Show, and thank you.